You're listening to Maximum Medicine Radio with host Doc Martin. How do you step into your maximum potential? How do you connect your spiritual drive with your physical path? Get ready to meet the maximum you the world needs on Maximum Medicine Radio with Doc Martin now. Hi, everybody. I'm Doc Martin, Maximum Medicine. And you know how I've been moving away from actual techniques of things and diet, and although I love to talk about that and inflammation, and I love bringing people here to talk about consciousness, because to me, and Joseph, who's here with us today, he will tell you it underpins everything. Joseph Selbie is, not only is he a deep meditator, and he has lived and breathed Yogananda's teachings, so that makes him as self-realized as a person can be. And he has touched, I'm going to speak for him, he can correct me later. He has touched source. He knows consciousness. And he's written another book. He is really, really good at putting spirit and physics together. And his newest book is The Miraculous, I'm not saying that right, am I? The Physics of Miraculous Healing. And so we're going to talk about that today because he talks about everything I love to know. And I'm going to ask him some of the questions, the metaphysical questions that I've been dying to have an answer to. So Joseph Selbie, hey, thank you so much for being here today.
Always a pleasure.
So let's dive into your book. And one of the things, the first things you make very clear is miracles are fast. Biochemical explanation for healing plods along. But miracles are boom, and they're changed, boom, and it's done. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was the main reason that I chose this subject as a way of helping people understand their own power to self-heal. That's really the focus of the book, is self-healing rather than being healed from without. Although there are wonderful healers and there are wonderful doctors, most of our ability to heal comes from within ourselves, and it comes as the result of our own view of the healing process. I mean, put simply, if you don't believe you can heal from whatever condition you're in, you won't heal. Your belief, the power of your own mind, is that powerful. But I found that because people have a strong belief, faith in science, that if I can introduce you to how physics, especially advanced physics, supports more subtle forms of healing, then you too can cause that more subtle form of healing to take place in your own body, because you can believe it. It allows you to believe it, and that allowing you to believe it makes it possible for you to do it. So let me start with one.
Let me just interrupt for a second. So there are people who think that if it's not scientific and they can't read about it and they cannot fit their own, what they learned in school, they don't recognize what you and I have understood, you more so than I, subtle energies. The unseen world, the workings of your energy field. So does your book help introduce people to those subtle energies?
Yes, and gives a foundation in physics to not only the thought that those subtle energies might exist, but that those subtle energies absolutely have to exist in order for the human body to exist at all.
So
There will,
somebody might say, oh, that's woo woo. Well, actually, woo woo is happening all the time and can be shown to you by physics.
yes, or at least substantiated by
Hmm.
physics.
Hmm.
And I mean, one of the key things that quantum physics has to teach us is that the physical world is not physical. The physical
Hmm.
world is made of energy. And this became sort of manifested, exploited in an unfortunate way, which is that it's the basis of atomic energy and atomic weapons. Both of those, atomic energy, atomic weapons, are based on the fact that you can convert matter to vast amounts of energy because there really is no such thing as matter. There really is only energy behaving as matter, or there's energy behaving as waves.
So
So,
let me just for my not so smart brain here. So what you're really saying is particle or wave
yes.
when you say matter. So consolidated in a form or, okay, I'm with you.
And it's important to just get rid of the notion that there is matter changing into energy. There's just energy behaving like matter. And what I mean by behaving is that it, um, in a sense, the energy is whirling in ultra rapid motion around a point, and that is an atom. So you've got whirling electrons on the outside of the atom, you've got whirling energy in the nucleus of the atom. Neither state is some enduring, lasting, irreducibly tiny bit of matter. All of it is just energy. And I
So
think
when
people,
they talk about the famous experiments, I'm not sure I'm going to remember Heisenberg or somebody else, but anyway, the act of observation captures that energetic or fixes it in time as a particle, as matter.
yes. So it starts to behave like matter when it's observed.
So
When
let's
it's not
ex
observed,
mhm.
it doesn't behave as matter. It automatically becomes a wave-like state.
So let's extrapolate that then to what miraculous healing is all about. Your observation, your intention can then lock something into a particular state of matter, i.e., form of physiology.
It's not observation only, it is belief, which is a sort of a deeper level, if you will,
Okay.
of how you affect the behavior of the energy around you, the behavior of the energy in your body, the behavior of energy around you is affected by your beliefs. So your belief can both kill you and heal you.
So, one of my most favorite learnings in my past 15, 20 years of diving into shamanic and esoteric, Frank Fool's Crow, a Lakota Sioux elder, was a renowned magical healer. And he lived in a teepee on the Pine Ridge Reservation, and people would come to him and they would live with him for 4 days. And these were teachings that he had that were documented by a Lutheran minister, Thomas Means, maybe. Well, anyway, and one of the things Thomas said to Frank Fool's Crow is, why do they have to come here for 4 days? You always have them come for 4 days. And like, what, how did you have to warm up to this? Did you have to do rituals to get there? You know, this was, I guess, documented in the 70s, so their language wasn't ours talking about esoteric stuff. But how come 4 days? And Frank said, and I'm paraphrasing completely, God is ready right now, doesn't take 4 days, but the person has to take 4 days to get to be, and I'm paraphrasing again, believing, receptive, ready to have the miracle.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a great example. And a
I
great
mean,
insight.
he's my favorite. I mean, I just am in awe of everything he did. But, you know, the person has to shift. And you said something very critical that I see all the time, although not in an esoteric or spiritual way. I have patients who are so resistant to another approach because I have back pain and my mother and father always had back pain. I am never going to be without back pain. Or, oh no, I can't do that. I have this. It's like there's some people who have a litany of diagnoses that are like merit badges they got in the Girl Scouts. And
Mhm.
they're going to hold on to them no matter what. And I sit there and I watch and I think there's nothing I can do that is going to change this, that is going to heal you. You know, even the and if you come in with an idea, and I do prescribe medicines. I mean, I'm stuck in that part of
Sure.
medicine. But they'll come and they'll say, medicine never works on me. Oh, I can't take any antibiotic. Meanwhile, they got a raging strep throat, tonsillitis, blah. And so you've got them already absolutely rigid. And I'll sit there and it's a little bit deflating because I know I can do nothing if they can't even hint at a possibility of seeing it differently. That's a hard nut to crack.
Yeah. And I imagine those are the days and those are the patients where you wonder if you're in the right place. But I would imagine that you, as um, a skillful, subtle physician, see where there are openings and take advantage of them and help
I have
people
a
to
really good
open it
story.
up.
When I first started, when I came out of residency and moved to South Central Pennsylvania, it was 1999, and I had a guy who was a type 1 diabetic who so he'd been so since 12 or 13, not controlled at all. And I suggested he consider an insulin pump because the finesse of controlling your sugars is unbelievable. And that was back when it would read, give you your dose. Now they've got it so it reads and adjusts the dose all within the machine, like a miracle itself.
Yeah.
And no, and no, and no, he never did. And it was maybe 8 years down the road. And he came in one time and he said, I think I'm going to try that. I mean, I had been hounding him. I had been
Uh-huh.
hounding him. Well, he got on it, and for the first time, his sugars were controlled for the first time in his whole life. So we're talking 50 years. And he was able to hike without going too low because it would tell him if he was going too low. And it was like, I was just like, I had lost my faith. Talk about belief. I had thought, oh, well, So people they can change, might not be in my time frame.
But I think the key for your listeners who are probably interested in what they can do to change their beliefs or what they can do to become more effective, they are open to redefining their own beliefs or expanding their own
Hmm.
beliefs
Hmm.
or deepening their own beliefs about what it takes to heal. And as I said to you uh, as we began, what I find that understanding the relationship of science to the physical body and physics to the physical body can open that door of belief for significant healing. Now, you still have to do things with that belief. It's not so much in this moment, oh, sure, I believe I can um, overcome cancer. You have to keep deepening it until that belief becomes um, an every moment conviction. So you build and deepen your beliefs, but if you can get past thinking it isn't possible, which is what a lot of people are stuck in, particularly when in the um, more significant kinds of cancer. If you can get past that, then you can open the door for your own ability to heal at a very deep level. And physics is just one door that I try to sort of crack open for people to
Hmm.
look into and gain that new belief. There are many doors, but I found physics and science in general to be a avenue of understanding that people are willing to walk. They're willing to think about it. They're willing to, take a fresh look and fresh understanding of their potential for healing from something they already trust to some degree.
Hmm. Is this a good time for you to remind everybody about the hologram and the template?
Yes, this is perhaps the most powerful part of the book that I'm talking about, The Physics of Miraculous Healing, is the amazing support that you find in a very frontier, advanced level of physics known as M theory that more than suggests, outright declares that everything we see, our body, the world around us, every atom, is a holographic projection from a more subtle realm of reality. Now, the astonishing thing, if you're at all familiar with um, the theories of subtle energy that we get from spiritual traditions, is just how close M theory's statements are to what spiritual teachers and healers have been saying for millennia. That spiritual teachers have been saying you have an astral body, you have a subtle body that is inextricably interrelated with your physical body, but is existing on a higher level of frequency, a higher level of reality that isn't perceivable through our senses. We can perceive it in many other ways, but our senses won't show us that astral body. We can find it through intuition, we can experience it through subtle feeling. Um, and so people often find it difficult to think it could exist because they can't experience it through their senses. But again, they tend to think science might have an answer. And science at this highest level, M theory, says not only do you have an astral body, but you absolutely have to have an astral body. If you don't have this hologram in what they call the bulk, in this sort of realm of pure energy, If you don't have a hologram, then your physical body would just disappear. And that's really exactly what spiritual teachers and Eastern teachings in general have been saying for a long time, that your physical reality depends on a subtler energy reality, and that in turn depends on an even more subtle reality of thought. So you could think of thought as the hologram. Your hologram in the context of physics is um, an intelligently ordered matrix. And that intelligently ordered matrix then manifests as a energetic version of that matrix, which is what your astral body is, which looks a lot like our physical body, but is pure energy rather than having manifested yet at the level of this physical world. And when it does manifest in the physical realm, then that energy begins to manifest and behave as atoms and molecules, and that is what forms your physical body. But without that matrix of ideas and without that subtle energy level of reality, nothing could exist in this realm. Now, again, many people already have embraced this, but for those who find it still difficult to believe or just outright unable to believe it, it can be very confirming that it could exist if you tune into this M theory, turn into this level of advanced physics that is, not very many people know about it in the same way that 70 years ago, not many people knew about quantum physics, even though quantum physics had been discovered decades before that. It takes a long time for these really advanced theories of physics to make their way into mainstream understanding.
Mhm.
So M theory has been saying what I'm telling you for 20 or 30 years, but it's still slow for the rest of mankind to catch up to the truth of it.
So, by extension, when we're going to embark on our self-healing, we have to go to the subtle energy realm.
Well, we're already in the subtle energy realm.
Okay.
We're always in it. We're always in
Okay.
that mental realm, but our attention is focused on the physical realm because we're by necessity operating in this world through our senses. And because we're operating through our senses, most of the time, we stop being aware of anything more subtle, or if we do encounter intuition or some kind of subtle experience, the tendency is for people to think that that's some expression of the physical and that it's not a separate realm or separate reality at all. What I have found most helpful for people in this process of changing belief, deepening your belief in what you can and can't heal, is to think of yourself, to think of your body as a hybrid car. So hybrid cars, as I imagine everyone knows, will operate as a gas-powered
Mhm.
car and as a battery-powered car. And the amazing engineering that they're able to put into these cars allows the car to switch back and forth or even do both at the same time. So that there are times when, let's say you're going up a hill and you need all the power you can get from your car, it will use its gas engine and its electric motor simultaneously. And that will get you up the hill the quickest. There are other times when it uses only the electric motor, and there are other times when it uses only the gas engine, and it goes back and forth. So we are like that. Uh, I'm meaning really just our bodies are like that, that our physical body does behave as a atomic molecular machine. And it's a pretty amazing machine.
Mm-hmm.
You have in your every cell in your body, you have these ribosomes that create proteins. And those proteins are the building blocks of your cell. And some of the proteins that are made in your cell will be exported out into the bloodstream and distributed throughout the rest of the body as a key ingredient, such as a hormone or neurochemicals that communicate through the nervous system. And all of these molecules exist. They all operate in very, very specific ways. And it's an amazing gas-powered machine that you have, that your body, how it works and performs. But as you mentioned earlier, and the reason why I focused on miraculous healing is that as amazing as that process is, and as rapid, really, as that process is of creating proteins and keeping your individual cells functioning and those cells contributing to the functioning of all the rest of the body systems that compose the entire body, can't operate quickly enough to explain extraordinarily rapid healing. And there are many cases of extraordinary rapid healing. I'll tell you one of my favorite stories
Mm-hmm.
from the book, which is about a woman named Barbara Kumiski. Now, Barbara was at 16 years of age diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And for the next 15 years, she gradually worsened with the ultimate point, which is where this story takes place. She was bedridden or had to be moved around in a wheelchair. Her muscles had atrophied and changed shape to such an extent that, excuse me, her hands were curled backward towards her forearms, and her feet were curled upward towards her shins. She was emaciated. She was incontinent. She required oxygen and a glucose drip to survive. At the time the story is told, her parents, with whom she's been living for the last 16 years of her illness, were listening to the doctors and were about ready to put her into hospice. So the judgment was that she didn't have long to last, and it was time for her to move into that next phase of passing out of this life. Well, during all this time, Barbara Comiskey was a remarkably committed Christian. And with the aid of her minister, she had developed a habit that she practiced many hours a day, every day, of praying for people. So in a given day, she would pray for 3, 4, and 5 hours for other people, which, for those of you who, recognize this as something that you do or other people do, you'll know that you feel connected to spirit when you pray that intensely and that long for other people. And perhaps the ironic benefit of her condition was that she was motionless. So she would go deep into spirit and more or less leave her body behind. So at this point in her life, she was near death. Body was ravaged by multiple sclerosis. And she heard a voice. And the voice said, "Get up and walk." And she did. She stood. And by the time she stood, her feet had returned to normal position. Her hands had uncurled. She'd gained tens of pounds. And she walked into the living room of her parents' home and she did a small ballet move that she hadn't been able to do for 16 years. Astonishing story, yes, amazing story, uplifting story, but completely impossible to have happened through the biomechanical processes that make a body work or heal the body from minor ailments. So the only way this could happen is if there's some other way in which the body can be manipulated or affected that isn't biomechanical. And this is where the holographic aspect of how our bodies are formed comes in. This is our electric motor. The normal way in which our body behaves and keeps itself healthy is the gas motor. And the gas motor does just fine until it reaches extremes. And when it does reach extremes, if you are going to heal from it or survive it, then this more rapid process, this holographic process, has to kick in. And that is the other key, which I didn't mention earlier, to the holographic process, is that it's instantaneous. Always is.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not being healed by your holographic body all the time because you don't believe that you can heal. And you believe that that illness that you have is a real thing and that people can die from it or be um, living with it for the rest of their life. So your belief is working through the hologram and working through the physical atoms of the body. So it may seem odd that you could heal yourself. You have the potential to heal yourself that fast, but you don't. And that's where your beliefs come in. You have to be open to the possibility of that level of healing before that level of healing can happen. And when you do, it can happen instantaneously. Or if you believe it's going to go slow, it can go slow. It's really determined by your belief. But that reality of extraordinarily rapid healing, and there are many, many stories and cases that I could share with you, really leave it beyond doubt that there are genuine cases of people healing instantaneously from significant life-threatening illnesses. And if there's even only one proven one,
Mm-hmm.
then it means there's something else we should understand about how our body is healed. And as there's many, many more than one, it gives us a real foundation from that scientific point of view to realize our minds, our beliefs, our emotions, our connection to spirit or lack thereof have an immediate and powerful effect on that holographic process. And that's why subtle healing is so significant and so powerful. It doesn't have the same time limits, it doesn't have the same speed limits as the physical process of healing. But both
So
of them
let's
require
talk
belief.
about emotion. How can our emotions help access? They can change our belief, but how else do they fit in this?
So belief is the most potent determinant or change agent for reforming your astral body. But we also interfere with the astral body with negative emotions. So, analogy I like to use is that if you go to a park, you might see a beautiful fountain, large fountain, let's say, where it has multiple layers and it has many jets of water streaming out from it, landing in basins, and they flow down into sort of waterfalls. And it's this lovely creation, and it's a lovely creation that's constantly in motion. There's water moving all the time to give that image of, this form. So our astral body is constantly in motion. It's constantly energy. It's constantly maintaining a form that then is the template for the physical body. So whenever we change the astral form, the physical body will change immediately. One of the things we don't realize we're doing with our astral form is when we have strong negative emotions, it's as if a wind comes along and blows that fountain sideways. So all those jets of water that were in a beautiful but moving form are now changed in the form they're creating. Now, if we have a moment where we get upset or we get angry or we shout or whatever, we hit our finger and we say a bad word, that will cause this disruption of our astral body, like waves going through the physical fountain, the water fountain. But it passes quickly and our
Mhm.
fountain returns to its normal shape. But if we have a deep seated and long lasting uh, negative emotional pattern, fear, anger, depression, sadness, on and on. Those emotions, even if we function fairly well, are nonetheless constantly interrupting the flow of subtle energy in our body. Or to use the fountain analogy, they're like winds that are constantly blowing the water in those various jets into some misshape, or blowing them right out of the basin of the fountain. And so the fountain isn't able to reform in its normal healthy pattern. And this is what our emotions do to our health, is that we have We may have a good belief, solid belief in health, but we're not letting that health occur because our emotions are distorting it. Another way to think of it is when you have a strong negative emotion, it's like ringing a bell, and the bell is your body, and the bell, distorts. All these vibrations are just ratcheting through your whole physical body, and then when the bell stops, it returns to its form. But if you are continuously whacking that bell with negative emotions, and they don't even have to be strong, obvious negative emotions, just sadness can distort that form, that subtle form. And the results of these things being out of form are what we know as diseases. So every cell in your body is functioning in harmony with and by the direction of your subtle energy body. But if your subtle energy body is distorted all the time, then those cells can't produce the proteins and they can't function as they need to function. And so they stop performing their role in the body. This is what happens when you have diabetes. You just have cells that no longer function the way they're supposed to function. This is what happens with cancer. Cells are just not functioning the way they're supposed to function. And short bursts of that, no big deal. Your cells will return to normal function and do what they need to do. But if we have strong emotional patterns, continuous emotional patterns, or just continuous quiet emotions, they will sooner or later cause particular cells, particular systems in your body to lose function. And when they lose function or misfunction, then disease takes root. And that's what we deal with on a physical level. I come in to see you and I say, Doc, my body isn't working right.
Mhm.
And then you say, well, there's this medicine, there's that medicine. But those medicines, as I'm sure you know, they don't restore function to cells. They ameliorate the
They
effects
put
of
a
those
lid on it.
cells,
Yep.
or they give
Mhm.
you a substitute like insulin that allows you to live a life without your normal insulin producing cells producing insulin. But until those reverberating waves of negative emotions stop reverberating, your body can't come back to, can't restore normal function to cells.
So we have about 7 minutes left. So what would be the things how would you suggest the steps a person can take to begin to access self-healing?
Well, tune into your emotions, which, sounds very simple and easy, but I think for all of us who have actually done it, we know that it's not that easy and
Mhm.
not that direct of a thing to do. Sometimes you need help from wise friends or professionals to help you understand your own emotional nature. But then I think the biggest thing you can do is consciously cultivate positive emotions. And you can do this. This is really why emotion and devotion and praying for others has such a profound effect on our life and healing is because you're
Gratitude.
you're actually producing
Hmm.
positive emotion, and that positive emotion offsets the negative emotion. It's difficult to stop having negative emotions. In the same way, it's difficult to stop eating the wrong foods. It's much easier to eat the right foods and to eat them with such enjoyment and determination that you just simply stop eating the wrong foods.
Hmm.
Same with emotion. Awaken positive emotions. And you can do it through many means. I think meditation is the most effective one because in meditation, you're tapping into the core of who you really are. And that core is joy. That core is love. That core is peace. And when you feel those things in meditation, they're they just sort of waft through your body and calm it down
Hmm.
and bring you back into that harmonious function of life force and um, the astral template. Beliefs, read books that have positive templates of belief, positive templates of who and what you really are. There's thousands of books out there. There's programs like the docs here who are helping us understand uh, deeper truths. Stay away from books. Stay away from from conversations where people talk about their body as a machine and assume that their body is a machine and assume that your body is a machine.
Hmm.
Realize it really isn't. It's not even remotely just a machine, that you have so much more going on um, that can heal you and can give you energy and can give you happiness than the physical body. And then for those who can embrace it, connect to spirit. It is the single most powerful way in which our consciousness will change and our positive emotions will awaken and our beliefs will flower is if you have direct experience of the power of spirit. And again, that most effective way to do that is through meditation. Connect directly, experience it yourself. And
I love
those
that. I
those
love.
three,
Mhm.
awaken positive emotions, be conscious, be deliberate about it. Work on your beliefs, embrace higher positive beliefs, connect to spirit, and they will heal you. If you read stories about people who have been diagnosed with terminal cancer and who recover from it, the things they do are pretty much exactly what I just said.
Hmm. Hmm.
They work on their emotions and they develop positive emotions. They resolutely establish their belief that they can heal. They don't listen to anyone who says anything uh, than that. And most of them find a way to connect to spirit. And it's those three that are key to healing from terminal illness. And it's those three that really will make you dynamically and positively healthful, even if you're not dealing with that level of illness.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, everybody, you've been listening to Joseph Selbie, his book, The Physics of Miraculous Healing. You can find that on Amazon. And you can see his website,
physicsandgod.com.
Physics and God. Okay. Thank you so much. I always love talking to you. I love
My
how you
pleasure.
bring that intersection of science and spirit together.
Happy to be on the show.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening. You've been listening to Maximum Medicine Radio with Doc Martin. Tune in next time while the doc talks health, spirituality, and the impact your beliefs have on every part of who you are, body and soul. Doc Martin unpacks the challenges we face as human beings. To learn more about Doc Martin and Maximum Medicine, visit www.sharonmartinmd.com.